Welcome to Confessions of a Terrible Leader, where real leaders share the raw truth about the lessons they learned the hard way so you don't have to. Join our host, Layci Nelson, founder of Transcend Leadership Collective and former terrible leader. On this podcast, we invite you to step into the confessional and get real with the messy stories and behind-the-scenes reality of leadership. Let's get to it.
Hello, listeners and watchers, and welcome back to Confessions of a Terrible Leader. I'm your host and former absolutely terrible leader, Layci Nelson. Suhein, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Suhein Beck is joining us today. She is a speaker who is self-described as absolutely obsessed with culture in organizations and the link between understanding multiculturalism as we think of it, not organizationally, but globally, and the link between that and how people organize themselves and create the world we all live in. I probably slaughtered that. Suhein, did I get close?
Actually, you nailed it.
Okay.
It basically is how to cultivate cultures harmoniously from a wider multicultural lens. And because of my background being multicultural, I am a Circassian. I'm 100% Circassian that happened to be born in Syria, in Damascus, oldest city in civilization, and then a refugee to Germany, from Germany to the United States. Basically, my family has been refugees 5 times in 1.5 generations.
Holy moly, that's a lot happening in that DNA.
Yes, we joke about it. We're like, it's just another Wednesday. So just pick up, start over in a new country, new language, new world, all over, and learning the culture. And so that sense of adaptation and sensitivity has been something I've been fascinated with. And lo and behold, the most difficult culture for me to adapt to was my own. And this is what I try to showcase in my speaking engagements, my keynotes.
Yeah.
You as a leader, you think that you have to increase your culture quotient. That's the new buzzword for the last few years. IQ, EQ, now there's CQ, cultural quotient. And I basically started off with, hey, do you know which culture is the hardest for you to learn? And I say it's your own.
Wow.
And the way you do it is you step out of yourself and look at your culture from the other perspective. The most simple finite example is tipping. So tipping is basically an American concept.
Yep.
It is a social unwritten contract that almost the rest of the world does not subscribe to.
No, they think we're weird.
Yeah. It goes deeper, and I've studied this. It goes deeper than just the concept of, that's a weird concept. It goes to the point of them interpreting it as corporate loophole of capitalism exploitation, which dehumanizes their own employees. Basically become servants and beg for crumbs of your generosity as a customer. Versus, for example, Japanese culture and some European cultures, if you tip, it is so offensive, especially to the owner of the restaurant or the company, that you don't think I'm taking care of my own, my family, my employees, which they consider the same, my tribe.
Yeah.
And so that in of itself, they can chase you out and basically do a no soup for you.
Yeah. You're gone. Yes.
How dare you?
Yeah.
I take care. I'm generous with my people.
Yes.
And so that concept is really a sense of almost dehumanizing. So when I talk to organizations and the leaders, then I ask them and I say, now, how does that put that into perspective for yourself as a leader? How do you see that? Now you're in the eyes of Europeans, of Asians, sophisticated customers from other areas where they come and they see you as dehumanizing. How does that reflect on your code of honor as a leader? Those are my 2 focal points, really. Code of honor, because that comes from my Circassian cultural baggage.
Yep.
Code of honor is everything to a Circassian. We subscribe to what's called adaptation, which I'm also introducing as a framework for leaders in modern leadership culture. So that is the focal point. And we have a systematic framework, and it all revolves around one word, honor. And that word has practically been erased out of the American vernacular.
Yeah, we do not use it.
Yeah, you use it in 2 variations. If you go into the Marines or if you make honor roll at school.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 contexts that most Americans would use that. Otherwise, they may use it in reference to, in the Middle East, that was an honor killing. That must have been an honor killing where a man killed a woman to protect his honor. where I come from, it's like every move, every breath we take into consideration, how would this reflect on our ancestors, on our tribal name?
Mm-hmm.
As an indigenous population of the Circassians from the Caucasus in southern Russia, how do we maintain our integrity and basically our brand?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I go into, is that, you as a corporation, as an association, what you're doing is you're protecting your brand.
Yeah.
And that brand basically is a reflection of your code of honor.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to just barely meet your product safety standards, or are you going to rise above and beyond that? Are you going to just meet those minimal requirements of your ethical code?
Yeah.
Or are you going to rise? And now with Gen Zs, what are they looking for?
Honor.
Exactly. They're looking for
They don't have that word,
purpose.
but that's what they want.
Right.
Yes.
And they don't even know how to describe it. No one and I belong to national speaker associations and whatnot. I am the only speaker that I know of that is speaking about this topic. No one has even brought it up. And it took me 1 year to fine tune it in order for me to position it, to market it, because everyone was like, yeah, Suhein, that's just not sexy. Are you the morale police? And I'm like, hell no, I can't even be the fashion police, let alone the morale police.
Right. What an absolutely beautiful, nuanced way and fresh perspective to bring in and thinking about honor and what it means to be honorable. And we work with people all day long. And my understanding of honor probably is about 1/10 of what yours is, if at best. But the way you phrase, what are Gen Z looking for? Why are they leaving workplaces in droves? Yeah. Oh, they have a huge expectation that their leadership is going to be operating with a code of honor or in an honorable way. Even if they don't have the words that you're using, that's what they want. And they're not going to tolerate less than that. They're going to walk. And
Thank
they do.
you for the affirmation. I appreciate that, because I am questioning myself. I am launching this speaking campaign internationally. And it's strange because here in America is where it's needed. I get invited to speak abroad and they're like, duh, we know that.
Yeah. It's familiar. So they're like, give us more of that. We know this is good. Reinforce the concept.
Yeah.
Where here it's introduce the concept. American culture is exceptionally individualistic, and probably more so than I would say almost anywhere else in the world.
93%. It's the most individualistic society in the world, and it was measured.
Okay, so I'm not imagining this, that we're really hyper-focused on ourselves.
93% of the population considers themselves individualistic versus communal, social, collective.
And we hear all the time the benefits of that, whether we know we're hearing it or not, because that is the water we're swimming in, this individualistic concept of existence.
Okay. I had to hold myself back before jumping into the screen, because who has the highest depression, sociologically speaking? Who has the highest depression? Who has the highest criminal prison records and suicide rates? And it's because we are so alienated. We're so isolated. And, technology has accelerated that even more. Again, this is scary for me because as a speaker, it's almost like I'm traipsing onto an area of like socialism. And I'm like, no,
right.
We fought socialism, as a Circassian, like we fought Russia 101 years. And we've been fighting socialism forever. And so by no means am I, but it may sound like that in my speeches. So that's why I'm so careful in my speaking career that I don't trigger that fear in Americans of like, oh no, she's promoting collectivism and socialism. Like, no, Ayn Rand was one of my favorite authors of, like total individualism. I am an entrepreneur. I have lived the American dream. I've launched a product from zero to mass retail nationwide for every Bed Bath & Beyond, every Walmart, my product was featured. So I've lived the American dream. Do not underestimate how much I am patriotic.
Right.
But there's some fallacies.
Yes, 100%. When you are out there and you're talking, you've been doing the research for your speaking, for your models, your life experience, how would you summarize some of the most harmful fallacies that are actually holding us back? As we'll say, workplace society is probably really huge, but as an American workplace, what are some of those fallacies that leaders ascribe to or believe in and don't even know they believe in that are just not serving us or our
right
people?
Into my confessions.
Perfect.
I want to jump start on the confessions. I want to go straight into the confession.
Oh my gosh.
Because I subscribed to the fallacy. I
Yes.
bought the Kool-Aid. I bought it in wholesale.
Girl, let's go.
quantity.
The confessional is officially open. The rest of the episode. You are the first guest I've ever had that started the conversation with me of like, can we just talk about me a tiny bit, like my accomplishments? Can we just talk about where I really screwed up,
I
like
want
for most
confession.
of the episode? I was like, absolutely.
I need to offload
Please. The
this
floor is yours.
stuff, all of this terribleness.
So this segue, I guess I just unintentionally created for you. Take it away. What are these fallacies? Where did you buy in? The damage, all of it, the confession. Let's go.
Okay. Sociologically speaking, there are like 5 parameters to measure a society, whether it is individualistic versus collective. One of those, and I'm not going to go into the 5, but one of those is performance versus caring and quality of life. Let's just say your right hand is performance. And that basically is our favorite words, KPI, change,
Oh, yeah.
performance. As Americans, this is what is sexy.
ROI.
ROI, baby.
Yep.
We are so performance oriented. This is horrible. We are wearing our smartwatches,
Yep.
because
Yep.
we're so bad.
We want the data to tell me how good I am at moving.
Everything has to be measured. How many times did I curse today? Has to be measured. So that's that. My daughter went to study abroad in Brazil, and she came back and she was just like, phew. She's like, Mom, no one asks what you do. It's not a question that comes up in small talk. And she's like, it was so hard because she, at that point, had already built up a business. My college student daughter had already been an entrepreneur and become famous on her own rights. She did her TED Talk when she was in college. She was already on that level.
Yeah.
So she had gone abroad and yet came back and she was like, totally different mindset. And she started falling in love with the Brazilian culture and, da, 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 da. And I was like, I'm going to have a Brazilian son-in-law for sure. I'm like, they're so gorgeous. That's okay. They'll have great, beautiful kids. That was a wake-up call when my daughter came back and she was like, that culture is not about that. That was a starting point. Let me just dive into my confessions.
Yes.
I started my career in property management. I grew up in business. My family were immigrants. We had our own businesses, restaurants, 7-Elevens, limousine business, newspaper routes, all at the same time, mind you. And we were a family of 5 and we all worked, all hands on deck. I grew up with we work, and we work. There is nothing else. We never, ever had family dinner cohesively together. I used to envy the Brady Bunch and I'm like, wow, that's what a family looks like. So then when I became 2021, I immediately dove into property management. Because I had so much extensive work history, I got promoted so fast. I was the youngest person in the company managing a staff of around 50 to 75 at any given time. So I took on the persona back in the early 90s, late 80s, basically, of shoulder pads,
Oh, yeah.
the typical 90s, tough, hardcore, seasoned veteran manager, but I wasn't. But I had to put on the facade.
Right.
I was the first one in the morning to take credit for turning on the lights and making the coffee. This is how subtle we were about it. Whoever makes the coffee gets credit, kind of like that. And you kind of apologize and say, oh, yeah, sorry if the coffee's too strong, just needed it
Yeah. You're virtue signaling with your coffee making. Yes.
I made it and I made it strong because
yes. And I worked so hard and I've been up since 3
First
in the
in, last
morning.
out.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating when I say that I average 17 hours a day. I am disgusted with myself that I went to work 14 days after my first daughter was born. I am repulsed with the idea that I stayed breastfeeding for 9 months while working full time.
Holy moly. That was
How?
not easy.
Go ahead. Ask me how, Layci. And
How?
I was working in property management. My office was close to my house. I would be breastfeeding literally on the way out, 8:59.
Yeah.
I would come back at 10:30, eat, breastfeed, run out. Come back at 2:30, come back at 5:30, and go back to the office. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, 9 months, nonstop.
Oh.
The first 4 years I was with my company, Cosmos at the time, I did not take a vacation the first 3 years. I did not take a day off. I was the epitome of that pathetic, non-balanced work-life person.
Yeah.
There's an ancient proverb, and this is, I found in many different languages, not just Circassian or Arabic. It's a leadership proverb, and that is, you take care of your village, the tribe will take care of you. Now hold that thought. You as a leader, take care of your village, the tribe will take care of you. Sounds good. Okay. I was that. I took care of my village, and my maternal instinct was very strong. And I was so loving and kind. I was a great manager that fostered loyalty and empathy. And like, I was good in that way.
Yeah.
But where was the fallacy? My performance and my standards of abusing myself. So what I discovered was I was not taking care of myself. And that concept that the tribe will take care of me is not true. At the end of the day, corporate America will take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And that represents our tribes.
Mm-hmm.
That pattern happened again and again and again and again. So after I left that one company, which they loved me, I loved them. It wasn't like it was toxic in any way.
I'm sure they did love you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they actually said, if only we could clone you.
Right?
And of course, that was like, yes, please.
That's the other part that I want the listeners to really know is in it, you're getting all the reinforcement for the way that you're behaving from your employers. They are loving it. I'm guessing no one's telling you to slow down,
Oh, no.
take some time. You're not getting any of that. It's
No.
You're so good. You're so amazing.
This was the 90s.
Yeah. Self-care. What is that? That's not even a word in the 90s. Maybe it was.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. And you know what's crazy is that this was a Taiwanese company and our cultures were very aligned. It was very respect oriented, no teeth, absolute sensitivity to others. If there's a meeting, you walk out facing them, you don't turn your back, you walk out facing all the way to the door. Unbeknownst to me, my culture as a Circassian totally aligned with them. So when the overseas investors would come, they only allowed me. I was the only American they allowed to go golfing with them. And I hate golfing. To tour them and to take them around and whatnot is because I was so culturally attuned. But at 25 years old, I didn't know that. I didn't know that's what they were appreciating in me.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward, I was headhunted a few years later to come back to California to the largest property management company in the world. At that time, it was the Gorilla. They owned and operated 400,000 plus. Whew. In that circumstance of me being aggressive, AAA personality, you name it, I am it. Like I am aggressive, independent, blah, 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 blah. How in the world could I possibly have found myself in a position as a pawn between corporate America and our client? My client, who I have to give you some backstory. I am Muslim. I speak Arabic. At that time, my last name was Mustafa, Arabic sounding name. No questioning the fact that I am from the Middle East and I am a Muslim woman without a college degree at the time. Our client was a very, very, very Jewish client in Beverly Hills. They owned a bunch of properties that were all suffering because of the previous management. And they had a great lawsuit positioned against this company, the biggest company in the world. Now, just assumed their portfolio. The Jewish company was in a position to sue this company, the American company, and they had valid cause for the lawsuit. My company was in the process of transitioning into computerized systems. They lost 3 months worth of accounting, gone, completely obliterated. They had valid cause. I come along, they hire me as being the troubleshooter and picker upper.
Yeah, you're the fixer. Yeah.
I didn't know. They hired me because I was Muslim, Middle Eastern, to instigate them even more. The first day on the job, I'm waiting to meet them. Richard, the guy that's leaving, was acting like he's dodging missiles. And I'm looking at him like, are you having an epileptic seizure? What's wrong with you? And he goes, oh no, I'm just waiting for the Scud missiles to fall out of the sky. And my ear rang and I'm like, what did you just say? He goes, when they find out they hired a Muslim woman to manage their properties, they're going to have a conniption fit. And right then and there, I knew why I was hired. They put me as a human cannonball to go in.
Without your consent.
Right then and there, I decided I was going to be the best thing they've ever seen. I was going to manage those properties like my own. It was my drop in the water of world peace. I took that on and I was it. Within 3 months, the owner, his lawyer, and the accountant sat me down in Beverly Hills, 4343 Wilshire Boulevard. It was incredible. And I thought I was on the list.
Yeah.
He literally says, Suhein, we want you to come work for us direct. You have taken the tiger by the tail. And that's it. And right then and there, that put me in a position that they wanted to hire me directly from the property management company. I'm driving home on the 405 freeway back to my office in Orange County. My mind is blown. I go back. I tell my supervisor, the vice president, that. And he's like, yes, that's awesome. And I'm like, wait, what? You don't want me here anymore? And they're like, no, I want you to go record them offering you the position so that we can countersue them for corporate sabotage because that's against the contract. Holy what?
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to call my supervisor back in Seattle, who was a lawyer, real estate developer that I had worked with. And I was like, Russ, what do I do?
Yeah.
And he goes, record your boss telling you to record them so you can CYA.
Yes.
Layci, do you understand what's happening here? I made it to the big leagues, a Muslim, Middle Eastern woman with no college degree.
Yeah.
At this time, I don't know, I was like maybe 30. I made it. I defied all odds.
Yep.
And I was a pawn.
Yeah.
Among the big boys.
Absolutely. They were going to use you and spit you out when they were done.
So that in of itself is that story, right? That's when
Yeah.
I decided I'm done. I left.
I was going to say, you can't leave us there. What happened?
You have to read the book.
Dang it.
But fast forward. I'm fast forwarding you.
Yes. Yes.
So I start my own real estate business. I start my own brokerage, Laguna Beach, and then I do appraisals, which I love, analytics. Then the economy crashed. I started my own skincare product from my grandfather, who was Circassian doctor. And that was a story in of itself. We'll leave that for another episode. A year ago, I decided I wanted stable income that was not dependent on the economy. And I needed to finance more marketing for my company, the skincare company, Alash. So I said, the easiest thing I can do is go back into property management because I can do it with my eyes closed. Because I had been there 15 years. I'm an ARM, ACOM, CPM candidate. Like these are all the high level designations. So I have all the designations. I can go in, bada boom, bada bing.
Yep.
Me thinking America has become, I want to say like they're more in tune with work balance.
We've evolved. Yes.
You've
we
evolved.
Like to think.
Gen Z is coming to the rescue to wake everybody up, you know.
Yes.
The millennials have become emotionally more mature. So I get a job as a temp just to get in. They hire me on the spot. And I'm hired as an assistant manager in training, just to like get familiar with all the new systems and computerized apps and all of that. Within a month, I am held hostage in the office by a resident who had issues, had nothing to do with me. She holds me hostage for 2.5 hours, calling the police, trying to get the police to come in, get us out. That woman kept threatening me and the rest of the staff for months, threatening to take away my real estate license.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like, I didn't do anything. I just came on board. It was baggage from previous of what they had done wrong. She requested a handicap ramp. They didn't install it. That's a violation of ADA. But I had nothing to do with that. Another incident happened where everybody was calling me Sue, and there were some vendors that were doing work. I was speaking Spanish with another vendor. This American vendor walked in and said, "Why are you speaking Spanish?" And I'm like, well, he doesn't speak Arabic, Turkish, Circassian, or French. So I'm going to speak Spanish with him. And he goes, "Why do you speak Turkish? My girlfriend would hate you." And I'm like, what? What?
Yeah.
Nobody can hate me. You can think I'm obnoxious, but you can't hate me, you know? And I'm like, why would she hate me? And he goes, well, she's Armenian and you're Turkish. And I'm like, okay. First of all, I didn't say I was Turkish. Second, if I was, she still couldn't hate me. And third, Armenians are cultural cousins. They're from the South Caucasus. I'm from the North Caucasus. We're cultural cousins. So no, she can't hate me. Yet, for 5 days, he continued to harass me about speaking other languages. And he would come in and I reported him. I wrote an incident report. I did all of these things. And yet still, no one was doing anything. The last day, my name tag was always on, but he had never paid attention to my name tag. We were sitting, I was trying to get permission to enter from residents for him to go in and fix the roof and stuff. And he looks at my name tag. He goes, "What's that?" And I'm like, "What's what?" And he goes, "What's that? Your name tag." And I'm like, "It's Suhein." He goes, "So your name's not Sue?" I'm like, "No, it's Suhein." He goes, "So wait, where are you from?" And I said, "Well, I was born in Syria." He goes, "No, you weren't. No, you weren't." And I'm like, yes, I was." And he stands up and he towers over me, leaning into my desk over me. And he's like, "So you're Muslim? So you want to slit my throat?" And I'm like, "Wait, what?" He goes, "You're required to kill me."
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, well, no, actually. But if I was, you'd have to stand in line because there's a lot of other people I would want to kill. I didn't say that, but like in my mind, I'm like, get in line, buddy.
Yeah.
And then it escalated and escalated. And then finally, I had to basically force him to leave and say, you need to leave because you cannot represent this company. You could be offending our staff. Our staff speaks Spanish. What if they had heard you when you said what you said to me the other day? What if a resident heard you? You know, we have fair housing. You are non-compliance. You need to leave.
Yep.
Stupid me. I was protecting the company. I was protecting my tribe. I was protecting my village. No one was protecting me. I reported it in writing to my supervisor and their supervisor, and I was livid. The very next day, they brought him back to finish work, and I was like, how is this possible? Right then and there, I should have called HR, and I didn't. I went home for lunch, stayed home that day, crying, closed the curtains, feeling small and threatened because he knew where I lived. And now he thinks I'm here to kill him. So how do I know he's not going to try to kill me first? Because he feels betrayed. He thought I was American. He thought I was Sioux.
He thought you tricked him.
Yes.
Yes.
So then another situation happened at the same property where I basically was in the position because the manager was phasing out. She was getting promoted. I was getting groomed into the next position. So I was handling all the eviction notices. There was a woman who was getting beat up almost every single day. Extreme domestic violence. I just happened to be living next door to them. My wall was on their wall, my bedroom to their bedroom, my kitchen to their kitchen. I heard every single horrible, mortifying thing. I had grounds to evict them on several cases, on several reasons. And so I accelerated the eviction process. She had come into my office a couple of times. I found her a domestic shelter place. We worked out the details for her escape plan. And I had gotten security cameras. I have video footage of him back and forth, gang members coming, trying to find him. He's a convicted felon, trying to get him. It was a very violent situation.
Yeah.
We had the police coming all the time. They were not answering. And I kept asking her, why don't you just scream when the police are knocking on your door? Why don't you scream? And she goes, so I calculated the amount of time it would take for me to scream and then to bash the door in. He would basically slit her throat.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew this shit is real.
Oh, yeah.
The morning of, she calls me and she was supposed to, like at 7 o'clock in the morning, it was worked out. She calls me at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, talking as if everything was normal. And I knew that he was there and she was under duress. I had no choice but to call the police from the other line as I'm recording this conversation. And he threatened her and me. And he said, cut the line or I will cut you both. And that's when I remembered the slitting of the throat motion that she had done a few days prior. So I gave the keys to the police with a Post-it note saying, go in, don't knock. They knocked. He jumped. He bashed her really badly, broke teeth and tried to kill her. Jumped from the balcony and escaped. They didn't find him.
Oh, man.
And I'm the only one that knows where she went. So he started calling around to other properties under the same company, knowing that I would go work for them. So now I'm going back from toxic 1990s, 15, 20 years later, I come back, idealistic thinking things have changed.
Right.
Things have not changed.
You didn't get backing. You needed HR. You didn't call HR, but your bosses had an accountability. They should immediately have done something. Didn't happen.
Right. So what I wanted to confess here is I am accountable to me. This is my problem. I should have, could have, would have, had I known better, to escalate, to elevate. I have the right. I have the value as a human. I have the decency. I have these things that I am worth escalating this to the higher level to protect myself first and foremost. I was not protected. And I kept telling my immediate managers, have the canine unit. And I had evidence that he was hiding in the electrical rooms because when he fell, he could have hurt himself because it was 3 stories up. So I was at risk and I was at danger and no one was there to protect me. My reason why I wanted to be on this podcast was because it's so easy to point the fingers at corporate America and the higher culture and whatever. However, as a leader, what's the first rule? Take responsibility, take accountability. When something goes wrong, you have to take accountability. Well, what about myself? I have to take accountability for myself first and foremost. Before I protect them, before I give the oxygen to the others, to my child, to my village, I have to take it to myself. And I was not protecting myself. And I have now, after this incident, I actually did the inspection on the unit after they vacated and we changed the locks, and all the glass was broken. And she had said that to me. She said, "You don't understand. All the glass is broken. All the windows are broken. Everything." And I was like, "Wait, what?" It didn't
Yeah.
register in that moment because I
Right.
couldn't visualize that.
Yeah.
I thought maybe their furniture or something, but not the actual windows. The day that I went in there, July 16th at 11:30ish a.m., I went in and I saw the glass. And the glass triggered severe PTSD from my childhood of being attacked by gangs in New Jersey. And that was part of my childhood of being an immigrant, of being different. And the street gangs in New Jersey would throw bullets and bombs and Molotov cocktails into our home and try to set us on fire, killed our dogs, blew
Oh,
up our
jeez.
cars. I mean, I grew up with extreme violence.
Yes.
That's the other aspect of this, is that I'm attracted to toxicity and I'm attracted to chaos. That's why I love property management.
I was going to say, there's a lot of it there.
Yeah.
People in a living space together, guaranteed to have chaos tornadoes everywhere.
Yes.
Yes.
I had to recognize in myself that I am attracted to being the martyr, the savior.
That is a huge awakening and painful.
Yes, that's what my book is about, Broken Leases. And that's what I wrote in the last 6 months. Here I was trying to save. I was being maternal. I was protecting everybody, taking care of everybody. I wasn't doing it to myself. And it was dark. Let me tell you, it was very dark. And that incident, about a month and a half later, I was admitted into intensive outpatient program, which was supposed to be 8 weeks. I crawled through 6. And I escaped from California to Seattle to go visit my friend in the autumn because after 6 weeks, I had maxed out on therapy. I could not do any more. I got in my car and I drove nonstop 19 hours to Seattle. That's how intensive this was.
Yeah.
So again, for your audience, if you find yourself attracted to toxic work cultures and you find yourself in them more
All the
frequently than
time.
not,
Yes.
yes, that's prevalent in American work culture.
Yeah.
However, also take it upon yourself and ask yourself, are you possibly doing a Suheinism? And that is like, oh, this feels like home. Because that's what I grew up with.
Right. It's familiar.
Yeah.
Even if it's so extreme, your PTSD gets triggered, it's still familiar. We're drawn to the familiar. Our brains are wired to be drawn to the familiar.
Right. And I loved properties that had gang members and prostitutes and drug dealers. I love that because that's why I was the cleaner, quicker, picker-upper. I could fix the properties that were not performing. I was evicting gangs and, whatever, because I knew gang culture. I knew gang language because I grew up with that.
Right. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing. That's such a huge share. Okay. I have one key follow-up question. If a listener is saying, oh my gosh, I think that's me. I see myself in Suhein's story. I hear myself in her story. The flavor of chaos might look different, but they recognize I am always in chaos wherever I go. I'm the common denominator. Wait a minute. What is the first step to breaking the cycle?
Number 1, get yourself a really good CPTSD. So it's not just PTSD, it's complex. PTSD. Because then it's long-standing, it's patternized within you. So it's not just a specialist in PTSD, it has to be CPTSD.
Okay.
That's number 1. Number 2, see if that pattern is outward in the rest of your life. Do you have chaos outside of work? Because that means that, yes, you are definitely carrying that baggage into other facets of your life as well. And I definitely have that. If you look at my profile online or, anything, you're going to see like my slogan is dodging bombs, bullets, and bad hair days.
I think I saw that. Yes.
Just another Wednesday, like it is.
Yeah,
what it is.
Right.
But I thought it was because of my heritage being an Amazon and being from the Caucasus, and we have generational trauma from being at war with Russia and the genocide and the exile. So I just thought that's normal. No, it's not.
You don't have to live
that way. My daughter,
way.
who's a therapist, to push me in the direction of therapy and say that. And then when I was in intensive outpatient program, that's when I realized I am really, really carrying a lot more than, the average. And this is a dangerous cycle. It's called trauma Olympics, where you are trying to outdo everyone else in group therapy. like, oh yeah, well, I, like
the one-up story. Yeah.
in the basement, this is what happened to me.
Yes.
No.
You thought that's bad. Let me tell you this. Yes.
They had to moderate that and make sure that that was not happening in our group therapy sessions because of my performance.
Oh,
I
you want
had
to be the
the
best.
most traumatized.
You
in
want to be the
whole
best
group.
at being traumatized. I'm the best at trauma. Yes.
So for the
Oh my
audience,
gosh.
please do, number one, seek good quality therapy and then start journaling. Journaling is primo.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, first of all, for just being so open and raw and open to sharing something very fresh that you still are in the process of figuring out. And if our listeners are like, I really need to connect with her, I want to learn more, I want to absorb more, we'll drop all the links. So you can give us all your links with descriptors. We'll make sure they're in the show notes. But where's the best, easiest place to make a connection with you?
My first name, Suhein.
Okay.
It's www.suhein.com, Suhein.com.
I said Suhan a minute ago. I'm sorry.
Suhein. Believe me, my best friend Ingrid still calls me Suhein. The book will be available in the next couple of months as I'm finishing it up, both on Amazon and on the website. My website also leads to my skincare company, ilagenaturally.com.
Yeah, which is a whole nother discussion we need to have.
That is. Yeah.
This was so good. Suhein, thank you so much. Listeners, I hope you are feeling as inspired and introspective and just willingness to open yourself to a new level of vulnerability and self-awareness like I am from this talk today. So
thank you for having
Suhein,
such a brilliant talk show. This podcast is amazing. I told my daughter, who's a therapist, this is the name of the podcast. And she goes, wow, that's brilliant.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. Thank you. Share far and wide.
Absolutely.
We are here to provide a space where people can come talk about the real stuff. And you sure did that today. So thank you so much. And listeners, go find Suhein, please, 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 and let her know that you heard her on the show. And I'm sure she'd love to connect. And until next time, go manage like a leader.
Thanks for listening to Confessions of a Terrible Leader. If you're feeling brave and have your own terrible leader story that you'd like to share, head over to transcendleadershipcollective.com/podcast to fill out a guest application. We'd love to hear from you. Confessions of a Terrible Leader is hosted by Layci Nelson and produced and edited by Fixation Point Productions. Music is by Leif Olson and Mary Scott from the band The Number of Months. Confessions of a Terrible Leader is a free leadership resource offered by Transcend Leadership Collective. If you are ready to refuse the limits of average leadership and join the leadership revolution, visit transcendleadershipcollective.com to check out our offerings for engaging workshops, strategic planning, and more. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. And until next time, go manage like a leader.